welcome and thank you for joining us for these City Council candidate forums.
Thank you for having me.
Would you introduce yourself and what ward you're representing?
Sure, I am Noemi Wierwille, and I am a candidate for City Council Ward 5.
Great.
A little bit about me. Can I start?
Sure.
So I'm originally from Duluth, Minnesota. Came to Concord 10 years ago to be closer to family, and have spent most of my career working in education as a teacher, school leader, and I'm now the Chief Learning Officer at Teach for America. As a Concord resident, I spend most of my time parenting my two awesome kids, Vivian and Calvin, who attend public schools here. And then I also volunteer coach with our Parks and Rec program. And that experience has gotten me a lot closer to city government. And I'm excited about the opportunity to serve.
Well, that's great. And I have some good friends that live in Duluth. I love that city. I think I like Concord more.
I love Concord too.
Well, we'll just jump right into the questions because you did a great job introducing yourself. And we're going to start off talking about tax base. So pretty critical issue for Concord. We've got something like 28% of our land, which is non-taxable.
Yeah.
So those of us that pay property taxes carry an additional burden. What would you recommend, or what thoughts do you have about expanding the tax base, assuming you think that's an issue?
Yeah, it is an issue. The first thing I think we need to do is just make sure that our city services are still great and strong, and ensure that we have a really good quality of life here. So that's our police, our fire department, our roads, the infrastructure, all of that, so that people have a high quality of life and it's an attractive place to live, raise kids, do business. The second is that I do think we need to grow the tax base, but we need to do it really strategically. We can't grow so fast that it starts to put pressure on those services. I think anywhere we have any distressed commercial property, that's a place where the city needs to get really active and work with business owners to rebuild. I think the Steeplegate Mall is a great example. That was once appraised at $65 million. I think it sold for 10. That's a tremendous loss in revenue. So those types of projects are really important. And then the third is just public-private partnerships. So some of the recent projects, the DOJ building, Exit 17, did I say 17?
Yes.
Exit 17, yeah. Projects like that are really, really important.
Great. We do have a big challenge here in this community in terms of making that happen. There's been a lot of talk about increasing densities, but as other developers have mentioned before, land costs are just kind of a small percentage of the cost to develop. So the need to be creative is really important. So I'm going to jump into the next question here. Everybody's concerned about the shortage of affordable housing. It is very difficult for employers to find employees, particularly younger workers that are entry level in the professional market. So you know it's having a deleterious effect on employers being able to attract workers. So what do you think the city of Concord can do to alleviate this somewhat?
Yeah. We've made a lot of progress in this area, but there's still more that we can do. So just a few stats. So we have 600 units that are in front of the planning board right now, 700 units that have approval, 400 units that are currently under construction. So, and we have about 1,200 in the pre-development place. So we're really churning and doing a lot to move forward these projects. Since 2020, about 500 affordable units have been built or are under construction. So that is a lot. Again, we need to keep pace. So what that means is we can't move so fast that our schools get crowded, right? We have to steadily increase the rate of housing and ensure that our city services can keep pace. I do think density is one thing that we can do, and I think I've talked to a lot of voters who they want to be more creative with their homes, and they want to think about, converting their homes in different ways. So I think as we approach zoning, that's going to be a really important opportunity for us to listen to the public and see how we want our city to modernize itself so that people can live their lives here and age and have kids and young families and all of that.
Sure, thank you. So the third question is also sort of a housing question, but we've got a significant homelessness problem in the city. It has been growing steadily, and quite a bit of effort has been put into addressing this issue. Some organizations in Concord, like the Coalition End Homelessness and other groups have made some progress, but the growth in the homelessness population has exceeded anything that we've been able to do to mitigate it. There have been programs like Housing First that make a lot of sense, but are very, very expensive and labor intensive to get them done. What are your thoughts on what we can do to address this issue in Concord?
Yeah. In talking to folks who are really working on the front lines of this issue, our homeless population has been pretty steady for the past few years, but they have been displaced as a result of different developments. So there's about 300 chronically homeless people in Concord right now. I think the first thing that we need to do is everything we can to keep people in their homes. So ensuring that homeowners and renters get connected to services when they start to feel financial distress. The second, again, talking to folks who are working with folks who are unsheltered, I do think there is a role that the city can play in coordinating some of the services. So ensuring that our police, the nonprofits working on this issue, other kind of public health organizations, that we have a coordinated approach to support these folks. That's something that folks are telling me could be really, really helpful. And the third thing is that I think we are not alone in this problem. This is a problem across our state, and it's really a problem across the country. So I think we can do more to learn from other communities who are really putting a dent in this problem and see what kind of innovative solutions emerge.
So when you talk about better coordination, and I don't disagree with you on that, I think there are quite a few resources that are being put forth to address the homelessness issue. There are some very good organizations, and I think I've seen some progress being made in terms of coordination between the various organizations that are dealing with it. But from the city's perspective, is this a city position or a city task force, and how do you see the city getting involved in it?
Yeah, the city does have a committee on homelessness right now, and I think one of the things that the city can do is help these groups set shared goals, have the systems in place to monitor, are we making progress? How do we know? What are we learning from that? So that's a role I think the city can play.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to switch gears and talk about tourism, a subject near and dear to my heart. We live in a state where tourism is the second largest industry. But we're the state capital, we're kind of in the central southern tier. So we're on the way to the White Mountains and the Lakes region and not too far from the beach. But, do we capture, in your opinion, the level of tourism that we should? And if not, do you think that the city should be more involved in helping to invest in tourism promotion for Concord?
Yeah, I mean, I think the city's done a great job supporting and nurturing some of our events. So in town Concord, Black Ice Hockey, the Multicultural Festival, all of that, our theaters, all of that I think is really important, especially to attract people from around New Hampshire to come and spend the day in our city. I think that the other thing we can do is when we think about I-93, what are the ways we get people off the highway? I think that's signage, especially as this project happens, signage that draws people towards our local restaurants, ensuring that as people come off the highway, it looks and feels welcoming, and that when they get to Main Street, there's a diverse set of restaurants and things to do that are open. So all of that, I think, are things that the city can support.
Do you think the city should invest in tourism promotion? And just to give a little background perspective, we oftentimes compare Concord to Portsmouth. And I'm happy to say that running a visitor center here, sometimes we get people in that have been from far away, and they have been to Portsmouth, and they ask the people in Portsmouth, what should we do while we're in the state? And they're starting to say, oh, you should check out Concord, it's pretty cool. But in Portsmouth, decades ago, that was not a tourist destination. That was kind of a rough and tumble town. The city invested a fair amount of money supporting various community organizations. The Chamber was one, but there are others to promote tourism. Do you think the city of Concord has any kind of responsibility to help support that level of promotion as an economic development tool?
Yeah. I mean, Portsmouth has the asset of being on the water, and I certainly think there's more that we can do with our riverfront to make it more attractive to visitors. I also think that's a role that the chamber can play in really helping share with policymakers what the city can do to make it more attractive and helping our residents and taxpayers see how that is a benefit to them as well.
I think that's a really important point, and we have been very much engaged in tourism promotion, but not to the extent that it's been done in other places in New Hampshire. So there are some real opportunities there, but I'd love to have a totally complete conversation on that at some point. But you brought up something that's really important that I think is totally connected, the highway expansion and the tens of thousands of cars that are driving by, heading north of Concord and then heading south on Sunday. And you see the traffic backups on Friday afternoon going north and then on Sunday afternoon coming south. It's been said that Concord does not have a particularly, does not put a good face forward on the highway. Would you agree with that? And if you do, in terms of Concord's image from the highway is what I'm referring to. If you agree with that statement, what do you think could be done in order to improve that?
I mean, I think Concord's presentation has improved over the last 10 years. I think that there's more that we can do. Again, I think this is a place where it's important that the chamber also maybe plays a role engaging residents, and because the lights at the Hotel Concord, it's beautiful from the highway. I know that it was a sticking point for residents when it happened. So again, the chamber playing a role in helping the residents see the benefits of attracting tourists. I also think small businesses that are just fun and hip are really, really important. When they opened Litherman's, they chose that location because it was affordable rent. What they didn't know, that it was a great location. People are coming off the highway, and in the end, they wouldn't trade that location. So people walk with their feet, and I think also helping our small businesses have a strong digital footprint, that this is a fun, cool place to come, stop, and eat. A signage again, so that people know what great businesses that we have that they can enjoy.
I'm glad you brought up the lighting subject, because I know that was a sticking point for Hotel Concord, but I have seen that treatment. It can be a relatively inexpensive treatment. Relatively, nothing's inexpensive, but when you compare it to other solutions to that, I think there's a great deal of potential there.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple more minutes. Do you have priorities you'd like to discuss while we're here? Things that are top of mind for you. These are all things that we came up with.
Well, I think one thing that's really important this election that voters should have on their mind is that they elect a set of counselors they're going to be able to work together and move things forward, and do that pretty quickly, especially when we're talking about opportunities that may emerge because of the highway shifting, or opportunities as we think about our trash and solid waste and community power. It's really critical that we elect folks that are going to be able to move quickly and get things done together. So that's one thing that I think is really important as you think about who you vote for. And then some of the issues that we didn't talk about that I think are important to Concord in the next few years is that we take steps forward towards being more environmentally friendly, reduce our carbon footprint, and reduce our expenses. I think this is really important for homeowners and business owners as well, and it's a place where I think Concord can really get ahead.
Well, thank you so much for being here. A pleasure having you, and best of luck in your campaign.
Thank you for having me.